This episode is brought to you by Quaker Rage Oatmeal Stout. When you're too nice to show how angry you are, have yourself a Quaker Rage.
I don't know if you guys listened to the last episode or not, but I queued up some copyright-free music for the intro and closing on the episode.
Okay.
It's music that I think I might use as our background music, and I'll put the clips over it that I was planning on doing.
Is it Kate Bush running up that hill?
Yeah, it's running up that hill. Yeah. I haven't watched Stranger Things yet, but I can't fucking get away from the meme.
Yeah, I haven't watched Stranger Things either.
It's all over the place.
I have, and it's very good, but okay. I will reserve,
I hear it's supposed to be very, very dark considered.
It is.
One.
Yeah.
Which is saying something considering the last ones were really dark too.
Yeah. The villain this year is Vecna.
Vecna.
Oof. All right, welcome everybody to episode 64 of Films and Fermentation. This year in film history. The year we're talking about is 1984. Yes, everybody, welcome again to Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
We're three friends who like to talk shit about movies while getting shit-faced.
Kevin's
Kevin's been shit-faced for 3 days now. The year is 1984, and Big Brother is drinking. What a year for cinema. In this episode, we decided to take a look at 1984, a major year for movies. In fact, we came up with this idea last week, thanks to Mike, because his This Day in Film History segment last week talked about all these great movies that came out in 1984. And we decided that we were going to try this out tonight. And if it goes well, then the yearly movie review may become a recurring episode segment. And somewhere down the line, we'll do another This Year in Film History for a different year. But we're starting with 1984 because it really is an iconic year for film history. Don't forget to drop us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit us at linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all our social media and podcast links. Gentlemen, what are you drinking this evening? I think I'll go first tonight. I did a little research to try to find out what the most popular drink was in 1984, and it was really difficult to find. And what I was mostly finding was popular cocktails.
Cocaine.
Yeah, right. Popular, not surprisingly, popular cocktails of the 80s kept popping up. And the closest I was able to find was 1983. The most popular drink in that year was the margarita. And I'm like, you know what? That's simple enough. I can do that. Yeah. I had a couple things. I was going to do a Blue Lagoon, which was vodka and curacao. And then I was going to do something else. And then I thought about Sex on the Beach because that was pretty popular in the 80s. And then I decided, you know what? I'm just going to make it easy on myself tonight. So I picked up a little Old Smoky Tennessee moonshine margarita flavor. So it's margarita moonshine. And I added a little bit of lime and lemon juice to it because it was a little, it wasn't bitter enough. So I threw a little bit more lemon into it. So that's what I'm drinking this evening. So Mike, you said you had an adventure this week?
Yeah. Saturday, Adrian and I went out. I had to get a new cord so my system would work better this week.
Yeah.
And we
Mike
went
broke
on a beer run. I went on to Devil's Backbone's website and looked at where a lot of their beers are being sold out. So we went to a lot of the places that they sell the beers to, and I found a couple, but I did make an error. Adrian and I both picked up 2 different types of beers that we thought were Devil's Backbone, because Devil's Backbone has the DB. If you can see it right there, the DB. But yep. Breckenridge Brewery has a BB with a circle around it. And they had them both next to each other. The Devil's Backbone and the Breckenridge. So I picked up a couple Breckenridge. I'll have to try those next week, see how they are. But tonight, I am starting off with one of the Devil's Backbones. It is called Cyborg Brain Juice. It is their dank IPA.
And this is the year of the Terminator, so Cyborg makes sense. All right.
And it is definitely an IPA. Ooh, it is hoppy.
Nice.
Kevin, what are you drinking? Bloody Mary?
I also looked up 1984 drinks and found cocaine was what they kept suggesting. And I was like, no. I would love to have found New Coke, even though I know it's not as good as the original recipe.
New cocaine?
I think New Cocaine, New Coke. No, I figured since we're traveling back in time to, calmer days when people would just sit outside and relax and talk to their neighbors, I figured I'd pull out a porch rocker.
All right.
So we can just relax. It's a good standby from Sam, even though I'm seeing a lot of rust now around the around the lip. I guess this was sitting in the cooler after it melted. Oh God, probably skunked. Hold on.
He wants a porch rocker.
No.
He's been watching these Southern videos, rocking on the porch.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm good.
All right. Just blow some dust off the top.
That's right. Some rust off the top.
A little dust on the bottle.
So I'm gonna share my screen real quick so I can show you guys this thing. Speaking of New Coke, I saw an ad for this the other day.
Yes.
Jack Daniels and Coke in a can, and it looks pretty good. So it's Coca-Cola launching a new can cocktail combining Coke and Jack Tennessee whiskey. And look, for those people watching their calories, they have a Coke Zero one as well. So Jack Daniels and Coke in a can. They already sell it in a bottle.
No, it's cola. It's
cola.
Not Coke.
It's not
it's
brand
cola.
name. So this will be a brand name one.
Because we have it here at the house.
What they need to do is they need to do the cherry Coke one, so I could I could freeze it like the one down in Tennessee.
That's what Adrian wants me to do with the one with the colas.
Freeze it and then a little frozen cherry Coke.
I guess got a new shipment of Omaha in, so I have no room in my freezer.
You gotta get the steak and beer fridge like I have.
I got 3 refrigerators in this damn house. What do you want from me? 2 has freezers.
Steak and beer. So even though this is a this year in film history, Mike does have a this day in film history fact for us. So Mike, why don't you go ahead and give it to us?
This day in film history. In 1960, Psycho, the psychological horror film directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Janet Leigh, Anthony Perkins, and Vera Mills, opens in New York City.
Yes, Psycho. Classic film, classic Hitchcock film. Talk about films that didn't need to be remade. The one with Vince Vaughn.
Scene for scene, too.
Scene for scene, which, like, if you're going to remake it, at least do something different with it.
Right.
And it's, and I hope we talked about Hitchcock before with the Oscars episode, that it's a crime that he's never won an Oscar for Best Director. Considering how many movies he's made that are considered classics. And that was a big deal in 1960 with Janet Leigh getting murdered in that first 20 minutes of the film or whatever, because she had top billing. So she was like, the movie was being sold with her as the top billed actress because she was really popular at the time.
And who knew her blood was chocolate?
Her blood was chocolate, yeah. Chocolate syrup. And the sound that body makes when it's getting stabbed is a watermelon. Also, the first movie in film history to show a flushing toilet. She flushes some evidence or something down the toilet in one scene, and it's the first time that an actual flushing toilet was shown on television. Before that, the only time a toilet was seen on screen was in an episode of Leave It to Beaver. But it was only the top tank. It wasn't the bowl. You could only see the top of the toilet. It's amazing the things that they thought were inappropriate back in the day.
That was also a time when the husband and wife had 2 separate beds on
I Love Lucy.
bedroom.
I Love Lucy. They slept in separate beds, but somehow she got pregnant. Although they weren't allowed to say the word pregnant on camera either. The fucking Hays Code, man, it was crazy. The shit that they banned when that went into effect.
Yeah.
You have a fun drink fact for us, Mike?
I do. Today I'm going to talk about proper glassware for beer styles. A goblet is the best glassware choice for German Bock beers, Belgian doublets, strong ales, English winter warmers, and Berliner Weisses.
And that's the goblet, you said?
That's the goblet. A goblet.
There we go, the goblet. I drink a lot of stuff out of goblets.
Yeah, I don't think we use the proper glass for the proper beer because we just
The only
Drink
glass.
the blood of
I
my
drink a
enemies
mason
out of
glass,
goblets.
so.
The only thing you need the only glass you need for beer is the one that it comes in. So you just drink out of that bottle,
Unless you get it from the tap.
Yeah, and then you want, and, I mean, most bars that are worth their salt will give you the beers in different types of glasses anyway. Try to give you that flavor variety.
So it's not the places I go to then.
Yeah, that's the places I go to usually either. So notes from the last show. I had joked a couple shows ago about how I was doing my Chris Walken impression, and then I kept going into it throughout the show, inadvertently.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but there was a couple times during last week's episode when I was re-listening to it that I sounded like Ed Sullivan. He was like, "Welcome to our show."
Welcome to the show.
On tonight's
We're going to
show,
share for you tonight.
we got these
It's the Beatles.
four mop top lads from Liverpool. And I'm like, I don't know why, but my voice sounded so weird last week. I also said last week that Jurassic World Dominion, or the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, was the third film in the series. Fallen Kingdom was the second film. The third film, which was just released, is Jurassic World Dominion. I don't want to get sued by Universal Pictures or whatever. And I was going to do a little talk about Obi-Wan last night's episode, that I had 3 predictions that I made that all came true. But Kevin hasn't seen the last episode yet.
I done fucked up.
I don't care about spoiling it for the audience. If you're listening, you got to worry about that shit. But when you're one of the hosts,
oh no,
gotta kind of be nice. Gotta kind of be nice, Plus, I want to be able to go into Kevin's pool at some point this summer. So,
Kevin to be able to go into Kevin's pool at some point this summer.
But I did see this advertisement on Instagram the other day. Netflix has a new series. I'm not sure when it's being released yet, but it's a series that's produced by Guillermo del Toro called Cabinet of Curiosities. And it's an anthology series, and each episode is directed by a different horror and thriller director. So it's kind of like a Tales from the Crypt or like a Twilight Zone type show. Produced by Guillermo del Toro, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
I'm not sure if you guys had mentioned or whether my wife had mentioned, and I'm looking forward to this. The person who had done the Haunting at Bly Manor and The Haunting of Hill House is doing a 3rd series now for Netflix, and this is going to be The Fall of the House of Usher.
Oh wow!
And I'm really excited.
That'll be
because I really liked how they did those other 2, so it's exciting.
That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not in the notes from last week, but I thought I'd throw it in there anyway. Let me bring this up on the screen here. Hold on a sec. I'm gonna open up the image in a new tab. So I saw a thing on Instagram again earlier as well that Ana de Armas, who I'm constantly talking about anymore, is starring as Marilyn Monroe in a movie called Blonde. That is Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe.
All righty.
I can
see it.
It's an attractive picture. I don't think she'll have portrayed her as well as other actresses. I mean, I'm not talking the acting style. I'm talking just visually.
Yeah, I mean,
visually,
it's kind of got to wait and see. It's one of those things.
Right.
Here's another one.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's like I've seen. There was the one that came out a few years ago called My Week with Marilyn, which starred Michelle Williams as Marilyn Monroe, and she looked phenomenal.
She was dead on.
Really looked like it. And so I'd be curious to see it. I think she's shown that she can be more than just a pretty face because she's a really good actress in Knives Out.
And on a related note, I'm sorry, you go ahead. You finish your thought. No, well, what I was going to say is that Kim Kardashian, who had borrowed the Marilyn Monroe's dress for when she sang "Happy Birthday" to John F. Kennedy, ripped the dress. The dress has been damaged from the borrowing, and now the museum that had lent it to her is seeking damages.
I would too.
Good for them.
I don't understand why you would do that in the first place.
I agree.
Get somebody to make a replica one. Why is it got to be the original?
Yep.
That's like saying, it's like going to Smithsonian and saying, "You mind if I borrow those ruby slippers?"
Yeah, but they look bad anyway. So,
so that takes us to, we're flying through this tonight. That takes us to the main segment this evening, which is
this, not gonna fly through.
Yeah, this year in film history, and based on, like I said, Mike's facts from last week, we decided to do our first one of these on the year 1984, which was a very good year for movies. So on Twitter, I posted a poll. I said on our next recording, we'll be looking at the top films of 1984. It was an amazing year for cinema. I was able to include four movies in this poll. Twitter doesn't let you do more than 4.
Okay.
Because I was going to try to do a top 5, but so it was Ghostbusters, Beverly Hills Cop, Temple of Doom, and Gremlins, which were the top 4 movies based on domestic gross, not on international or worldwide. So I said, of those 4 films, given a chance to watch one of these and only one, which one would you choose? And with 33%, we have a tie for first place between Ghostbusters and Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom. Tied for second place with 17%, Beverly Hills Cop and Gremlins. So all 4 movies kind of like broke even somewhere in this voting.
So I'm looking at the numbers on the website, and do you realize that the top 4, Indiana Jones had the top opening weekend, but the next one on the list was Star Trek 3.
Yeah, for top opening weekend.
Opening weekend, it beat the other 3 on your.
And if you look at the worldwide gross for that year, the number 1 film of the year was actually Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah, oddly enough.
So Mike, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I was just going to ask Mike, after you had stated international worldwide, if he on his soundboard had a so that we could get some pit bull or something going on when we do the international. That must be early pit bull, because that doesn't sound like anything I'm familiar.
Samba.
Samba. That's all he's got is samba. Yeah. You wanted some pit bull like singing the worldwide or whatever.
or at least says
or whatever he does. So a couple of comments we got on this Recast It podcast, who I had told you I had spoken to, said definitely a toss-up between Beverly Hills Cop and Gremlins.
Wow.
They chose Beverly Hills Cop because Temple of Doom was garbage. some hot
That's some fighting
there.
Words.
Yeah. And then at Jen TCM tweeted, I think Greystoke was a 1984 film as well. Christopher Lambert in a loincloth, ... And I replied back, it was a 1984 film, not in the top 10 box office, though. The survey was only for the top 4 films, as that's the most Twitter would have let me do. So I didn't make a comment on Christopher Lambert in a loincloth.
Does that really need a comment?
I have no comment.
It kind of speaks for itself.
But yeah, that was definitely a
1984 we just lost Adrian.
There you go.
Jesus.
Guaranteed to happen within the first 10 minutes of the show. So.
And just to let you gentlemen know, I have finished my first beer.
Okay.
And I've moved on to Devil's Backbone Gold Leaf.
What does that say underneath it?
Golden Lager.
Okay, nice.
Like you had that the first
I
night.
think I've had that one. Yeah.
You
All right.
Warm. Whoa, where's Kevin?
We lost you there, Kev. What happened? We were like looking at your wall or something.
I hit the wrong button. My bad.
So let's take a look at the top movies of 1984. As I already said, so we're looking at the domestic box office. We are not looking at the worldwide or international, because then you're going to be getting into a lot more numbers there that I don't quite understand.
Probably movies we haven't seen.
Yeah. So Ghostbusters is number one domestically in 1984. It was in 1,506 theaters total across the country. This is an amazing thing too. When you look at those numbers, like it was in way less theaters than Beverly Hills Cop and Indiana Jones and some of the other films, but still made more money. Its opening weekend box office was only 13 million, compared to some much better numbers for some later films in the list. But it was also sort of like a word of mouth thing too. I think people wanted to see it, but weren't quite sure about it. And then it had, you know, really good reactions and good criticism in all the first weekend. And then it just kind of grew from there. And I remember seeing it in the theater as a kid. I was 7, I think, when I saw this in the theater. Not quite old enough to understand that ghost was giving Dan Aykroyd a blowjob. But old enough to laugh.
Or what the keymaster and the
what the keymaster and the gatekeeper got up to. Yeah, but I was old enough to laugh at the joke. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Dogs and cats living together, total chaos.
So many great lines in that movie, and Mike knows that my favorite line is "Imagine a Twinkie."
Twinkie.
That's a big Twinkie.
That's a big Twinkie. So domestically, for the year, it was number one, making a gross amount of $242,604,185, or as I like to say, just another week in Leo's bank account. Anything else we want to say about Ghostbusters that we haven't already said before?
I'm still waiting to watch or to see the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie.
I saw it.
I heard it was pretty good.
It was good. It was better than the reboot in 2016. Again, like I feel bad to like badmouth the women in that movie because I think they're all pretty funny, but I just don't think that the jokes didn't land well because it was more like slapsticky and not really as like intelligent as some of the jokes were in the original Ghostbusters. Right. Ghostbusters Afterlife is very fan friendly. Does a lot of callback stuff. It's interesting to see it in like a small town rather than New York City.
So if you rank them, it's got to be Ghostbusters first.
Yes.
Ghostbusters 2.
Ghostbusters
Afterlife.
I would probably say Ghostbusters 2 and then Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Okay.
So if you're looking at it as like a true trilogy, then you know they kind of decline a little bit with each one, but the three of them are still better than the 2016 reboot.
Okay.
Ghostbusters 2 had a lot of problems because I think there was a lot of like infighting among the actors and a lot of rewrites on the script, and it just didn't really like land the way they wanted it to. Which is a shame because I think Ghostbusters really could have been a major franchise if it had worked out.
Yeah.
Not to mention that the cartoon series rocked.
Mm-hmm.
The real Ghostbusters.
The real Ghostbusters.
Not the one with the gorilla. Second on the list. This one was the domestic box office second place, but worldwide box office was actually the number one film of 1984. Opening on 2,006 screens across the country, an opening weekend gross of 15 million, which was more than Ghostbusters, but an overall domestic gross of $234,760,478. Beverly Hills Cop.
Everybody learned to play on the piano.
Yeah, and then what else can I say about Beverly Hills? Oh yes, it introduced the world to Bronson Pinchot.
Was this the man who got thrown out of the buffet at?
Is Beverly Hills Cop 1 or 2? Because it's been a while since I've seen it. Is 1 the one where they stick the banana in the tailpipe?
Yep.
Now, Eddie Murphy had already
ever seen.
Eddie Murphy had already done 48 Hours at this point.
Right.
He had been on Saturday Night Live. I think he also did Trading Places. I think that came out before this as well, maybe, or maybe the year after this.
I would have to look it up.
Because I think Beverly Hills Cop is the movie that really, even though he was good in 48 Hours and it was a popular film, I think Beverly Hills Cop,
which is coming out party.
Yeah, it was the one. Yeah, it's the one that made him. Trading Places was 1983, so it was the year before.
Okay.
Yeah, so Trading Places.
Beverly Hills Cop was all him.
Yeah,
he didn't have any real support. He did, but
he did, but it.
We have
Judge Reinhold isn't Dan Aykroyd.
Right.
So I would say Beverly Hills Cop is the one that shot him to superstardom, because that's where everything kind of rolled from there in the 80s. Because then he had the 2 stand-up concert movie releases, Delirious and Raw, which were both box office smashes. He had Coming to America, which is I think my favorite Eddie Murphy movie is Coming to America.
Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Beverly Hills Cop 2, which was massive as well.
Let's not talk about 3.
Well, that was the 90s, I think. Beverly Hills Cop 3.
That's one of the trilogies that killed a franchise.
yeah. And we should have put that one in last week. Beverly Hills Cop. It's like my favorite Eddie Murphy film is Coming to America, and I also do have a really soft spot in my heart for The Golden Child for some reason.
I really love Beverly Hills Cop.
I like Beverly Hills Cop too. Yeah, I just haven't.
That's probably my favorite Eddie Murphy.
2 TOO. I like it. Yeah.
I know, but it's probably my favorite Eddie Murphy movie.
It's not Haunted Mansion.
No, it's not Shrek.
Shrek.
No.
It's not Norbit.
It is not
Bumps.
Dr. Dolittle.
Bowfinger.
Bowfinger is actually a pretty good movie.
Bowfinger is actually very good. Yeah.
He was I want to say his comeback, but it kind of didn't really become too much of a comeback, was when he did Dreamgirls and got an Oscar nomination. He was really, really good in that movie. But yeah, Beverly Hills Cop, I want to say that's the movie that made him,
And don't forget Harlem Nights.
Harlem Nights is a good movie. I like Harlem Nights. Harlem Nights gets a bad rap. I like it. You got Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor in the same movie together. Come on.
And Red Fox.
And Della Reese. And it's
Arsenio Hall.
And Arsenio Hall and Danny Aiello. It's a good movie.
Show him my pinky toe.
Show him my pinky toe. Number 3 on the list domestically, made $179 million plus. Opening weekend gross was $25 million. This was, as far as I can tell, looking at this list, the largest opening weekend of all domestic films.
Yes.
Opening on 1,687 theaters in 1984, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Now, as Recasted Podcast said in their tweet that they sent us earlier, they think Temple of Doom is trash. I don't think it's trash. It's definitely not the best of the original 3 films. I'm not even going to fucking talk about Crystal Skull. And I can't say anything about the 5th film until it comes out. But of the 80s Indiana Jones films, the trilogy, it's not the best of the 3, but I don't think it's trash by any means.
No, I think it's, like I said, we've talked about it before. I think it gets a bad rap because it's not a area that Americans know a lot about India and that religion.
It's kind of like very it's like a stereotypical view of what Indian culture was too at the time as well.
Right.
It's funny because that we're doing this because Cinema Sins this week just released an Everything Wrong with Video on Temple of Doom. And I just watched it yesterday. It was really funny. It was pretty good. And they point out a lot of that stuff, that there's a lot of stuff about the culture that you really, would be a little less acceptable today. Still, I enjoy it though. I still think it has all the things that you want out of an Indiana Jones film,
except for Willie,
who just fucking grates on my nerves so bad. Nothing against Kate Capshaw, but that character is horrible. And I keep forgetting, and it wasn't until I watched a CinemaSins video that it reminded me that's a prequel, actually.
Yes.
Temple of Doom happens before Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's funny because they're talking about how he's such a world-renowned archaeologist, and it's like you would like to know like what happened before Temple of Doom that he's like so well known already.
But it does have one of the best lines out of all the series.
No time for love, Dr. Jones. Short round. Number 4 on the list. This is the last of the films to do over $100 million domestically in 1984.
It's a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie if you think about it. Yeah.
It is.
Opened 150 or final gross was 151 million plus. Opening weekend was $12,511,634. Opened on 1,537 screens. The number 2, 3, and 4 films all open on more screens than Ghostbusters did. And that film is Gremlins.
Now, I saw something the other day, which I think I need to put down as a idea for a show, but it's plot holes.
Mm-hmm.
That's for all these movies. One of them was Gremlins. It's like feeding them after midnight. It's after midnight somewhere.
Yeah. Just like it's always 5 o'clock somewhere as well.
Yeah, so it's like one of those plot holes. So no matter, I mean, just don't ever feed them. Why?
Just can't feed them. Yeah, they just gotta just starve them. It's like, yeah, is it after midnight in the time zone that they're born in?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And when does that range go for? You know, is it only 6 hours after midnight, an hour after midnight?
And what happens with daylight savings time?
What about leap year?
It is there. That is probably like the major plot hole in that film, but it's still a fun film. Pretty scary when you're a kid seeing that. I mean, I saw that in the theater as well, and I was 7 years old in 1984, and that's a scary film to see when you're 7. Especially when Stripe jumps out of the water fountain at the end and he's like melting. Pretty brutal. I don't remember too many quotes from the film though. I do remember the Mogwai at the end saying, "Bye, Billy."
I remember what was her name? Phoebe Cates.
Yeah.
Cates? Yeah. Just doing her monologue.
Phoebe Cates.
That
fucking monologue that comes out of nowhere. Like,
yeah.
It's like it's a Steven Spielberg produced like pretty much kids fantasy film in a way. I mean, it does have some disturbing images and all, and then out of nowhere you get this like 5-minute monologue about her dad getting stuck in the chimney and breaking his neck, and that's how they found out there was no Santa Claus. And it's like, oh fuck.
Just remember, this is the movie that launches Fergie's career.
That Rock's 2's?
Fergie's career.
No, that's Gremlins 2.
Was that 2?
That's Gremlins 2. The female gremlin that looks like Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas. That's Gremlins 2.
Okay.
Kevin and I were at a baseball game together. You remember that? We went to the Phillies game and somebody was talking about Fergie, and I said that, and like the whole area around us started laughing. I was like, Fergie looks like the gremlin from Gremlins 2, and then all these people started laughing around us. The Gremlins, yeah. Gremlins 2 is the one that had Tony Randall was the smart gremlin.
Oh yeah.
They had a gremlin that was electricity that they trap in a phone. The flying one.
It was their trilogy.
The bat, yeah. I actually read somewhere that that the studios were looking into making a third one. Because everybody's returning to everything nowadays anyway. They're done with remakes, so now it's all 30 years later trilogies or 30 years later sequels. Yeah, here it is. Gremlins 3, 2023. G3. Written by Chris Columbus. That's all. There's not much else about it yet.
And what's worse, since Top Gun Maverick's doing so well, they're going to do a lot more of these now.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, they've already done it with some other, like the fucking Matrix. Had a fourth movie 30 years later.
Yeah, Jumanji.
There's a Beetlejuice 2 scheduled for 2025.
Oh, geez.
So I mean, like, you know, it's going to be a thing.
Well, then Michael Keaton won't do that much makeup though.
No, they're going to get what's his name from Saturday Night Live to play Beetlejuice, the one dating Kim Kardashian right now.
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson. He looks like what Beetlejuice should look like if he was alive.
Fucking horrible. The fifth movie, which I have not revealed on Twitter yet because Twitter would only let me do a top 4 poll. Number 5, $90 million gross for 1984, opened to $5 million. It's a very small opening, and only opened on 1,111 screens. 1,111 screens. It's funny. The Karate Kid.
You're the best. All right.
Never keep it down. I made that the ringtone on my phone at one point. My wife was really close to divorcing me.
Wax on or wax off?
And to tag this on to what Mike was just saying, they launched the Netflix series 30 years later, Cobra Kai, and it's done incredibly well.
It's in what, third season now?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like season 4 now.
Is it season 4?
That was it.
I watched the first season, and the first season was really good, but I haven't picked it up since then.
I haven't picked it up at all.
But I've heard. I mean, the first season was really good.
I've heard good things about it.
It was interesting to see because they do like a role reversal in it where like Johnny is the main character and Danny LaRusso now is kind of like a dick, and you know, so they kind of like reverse the roles a little bit, and it was interesting to watch. But it was pretty, and I heard it's been pretty good, pretty solid in all its continuing seasons. I just haven't gotten around to watching them yet.
Wasn't there a musical group that actually it
was Sweep the Leg.
Sweep the Leg.
There was a band. I don't remember the name. I gotta look it up. I don't remember the name of the group, but they did a song called "Sweep the Leg," and they got Billy Zabka and a bunch of the other Cobra Kais to appear in the video.
And they also got the guy that plays Daniel.
He
has a very small part. Ralph Macchio.
And they even got the guy that says, "Put him in a body bag." Like, put him in a body bag. Karate Kid, man, I love Karate Kid. It's that thing I said last week. A lot of these movies, because I was really young when I saw these movies, and they were movies that I like watched on a loop throughout the 80s when I started getting them on like VHS and stuff, and had seen these movies so much as a kid that I always watched these films and wanted to do everything I saw in them.
Yeah,
like I watched Karate Kid. I wanted to take karate. I wanted a Mugwai. I wanted to fight ghosts. You know, I wanted to do all these things.
You wanted to ride a bike.
I wanted to ride a bike like E.T. I wanted to go to the police academy, which is our next film.
You wanted to be a black cop from Detroit that went to California. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Temple of Doom. I wanted to be Short Round.
Driving a car.
Yeah. So number 6 on our list, comedy classic, probably one of those films that couldn't be made nowadays. $81 million gross, opened to $8 million. And this one also opened on more screens than Ghostbusters, 1,587. The movie is Police Academy.
Did this introduce us to Steve Guttenberg, or did this just make us love him a little more?
I think this is like, it's kind of like with Beverly Hills Cop, where it kind of like
it was his coming out party.
It's the movie that kind of made him really well known. So I'm looking him up now. The Goot, Steve Guttenberg. Steve Guttenberg. Let's see. His first movie was in 1977. It was a TV film. It's called Something for Joey. He didn't do his first actual movie till 1982 when he was in Diner. And Diner is a pretty popular film in the 80s as well. It was like an ensemble film. It starred, aside from Guttenberg, it starred Mickey Rourke, Kevin Bacon, Daniel Stern, and just about a bunch of guys that, you know, hang out at a diner. And then he did a couple more movies, and then Police Academy in 1984 was the one that made him, you know, a household name.
Yep.
And after that, we got Short Circuit. We got
so here you go. Police Academy 1984, followed by Police Academy 2 in 1985. That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
That's like they did really well with the first one. Let's make a second one real fast while we can still get the Gutenberg to sign on to it. Then they did the Cocoon in 1985.
Right.
Bad Medicine 1985. Police Academy 3 in 86. Short Circuit in 86. Police Academy 4 in 87. Three Men and a Baby in 87. Cocoon to Return in 1988. Three Men and a Little Lady in 1990. And then it kind of like goes downhill from there. He starts doing a lot of like straight to like DVD films and things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like he
was the 80s actor.
He was an 80s guy, yeah, and he like dropped out of the Police Academy after number 4 because they did like 3 more after that.
At least,
and he wasn't a part of them. But yeah, I love Police Academy, man. It's got some great lines, some great scenes in it, funny performances. I love the guy that pretends to be Spanish and then dresses like a woman to sneak into the women's dorms. And then you find out later, not only is he not a woman, he's not even Spanish. Just uses the accent. And then he starts having sex with the lieutenant, the female lieutenant. And she like breaks him. And he's, you see him walking out of the dorm and he's like limping. He's like, and Michael Winslow was introduced to the world with his ability to make all kinds of sounds.
Bobcat Goldthwait?
Bobcat Goldthwait was number 2. He came in Police Academy 2. He was in that.
Oh, okay.
First one was the major players were Steve Guttenberg, Bubba Smith, who was Hightower.
Sweetums.
Snookums or whatever the hell her name was. Sweets.
No, the little dirty guy, Sweets.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about the black girl who screams at the guy at the end, like, "Don't move, dirtbag!" And then the sergeant, I can't think of the actor's name, but he was a recurring character on MASH for a long time.
Yep.
Played Rizzo on MASH. Police Academy is a great movie. Number 7, I'm going to be honest, not a big fan of this film, even though it's considered a classic and very well-liked film from 1984.
Well, it's like they said in the MCU movies. Is Footloose still a great movie? It never was.
Great hero, Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
Who put the sticks up their butts? It had this is weird, man. That 80 million even is the final gross. I find that really, really odd. Open to $8 million plus, open on 1,384 screens. The movie, as we said, is the Kevin Bacon classic, Footloose.
I think the song did better than the movie.
Well,
the 80s was also the Kenny Loggins years, too.
Yes.
It was, the 80s were like the decade of soundtracks.
Yes.
Like every movie had a great soundtrack, you know.
Yeah.
Except for Indiana Jones.
But it did have
a great soundtrack, just not released in the U.S.
It had an iconic score.
True.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But Footloose, it's like it's looked at fondly by a lot of people. I'm not a big fan of it.
I just don't understand a town that just totally gives up dancing.
Yeah,
are they Mormons?
Blames the dancing on the death of his son or something.
Yeah, they were dancing, which is why he got involved in the car accident.
Dancing is the devil.
Dancing leads to drinking. Drinking leads to driving. Driving leads to death.
It leads to the dark side.
Oh. Yeah. Fear leads to the dark side. Number 8 on the list, opening to 16 million. It's a pretty good opening. Was on 1,966 screens and had a final gross of $76,471,046. Star Trek 3, The Search for More Money. I'm sorry, Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Not the best film in the Star Trek, canon.
No, but you actually did get to see, Vulcan sex. With the whole fingers thing.
Vulcan procreation. You also get to see Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon. I mean, When you think of badass Klingons, Christopher Lloyd does not come to mind. Like,
I didn't think he was that bad in it. But it wasn't I mean, when you think like the movie was living up to the Wrath of Khan.
It had no chance.
Yeah, like the first Star Trek film tried too much to be like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Try to be like real cerebral and was kind of boring. The second film is my favorite of the original Star Trek films because it's the one that was like the most like the series.
Yeah.
Talk about plot holes, Mike. Chekhov wasn't part of the crew when they
I
met,
know that. I say that
when
all
they
the
met
time.
Khan the first time.
Yeah, I know.
But Star Trek 3, like, it wasn't bad. I think it was the first one that Nimoy directed.
I think it was too.
Because I think the deal was he didn't want to come back. Like, he wanted that death scene in part 2 to be final. And they were
It was an
able
awesome death scene.
It was a great death scene, and I think they were able to talk him back by allowing him to direct it. And then, of course, Shatner gets jealous, and he gets to direct part 5, which is the worst film in the series. Why does God need a spaceship? But Nimoy ended up doing 3 and 4. 4 was the Voyage Home, or what was it called?
Or the Rescue of the Whales movie.
Yes, the Rescue of the Whales movie. And then I actually really like part 6, the Undiscovered Country.
Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah, that was good.
I thought what I liked about the original Star Trek films, at least numbers 2 through 6, is they really stuck to the continuity. So like his son gets killed in part 3 by the Klingons, and then in part 6 it becomes a major plot point. He's like, I've never forgiven him for the death of my son and all that, and then it gets played during the trial that he's being blamed for the death of the senator and all that stuff. So
also got Christopher Plummer pulling out a badass Klingon.
Bald Klingon.
Yeah.
To be or not to be.
I agree. I like 2 the best. I think 1 gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a great film, but it did try to pick up something from the original series and bring it into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Captain Decker in the first movie is actually the son of Commodore Decker from Doomsday Machine in the series. Okay. So they kind of make a tie in there.
I did dig the bald chick with the short skirt. I like the twist at the end of the first one with the finding out that it was the Voyager probe.
Dude, could you just like say spoiler alert or something? Now I'm never going to watch it.
Well, the only problem with
hadn't
that
gotten around to it yet.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is they did the exact same thing during the series, except they thought Kirk was the creator.
But again, this is Star Trek 3 we're supposed to be talking about. The Search for Spock. Number 9 on the list. Opened to $5 million on 1,100 theater screens. Closing gross was $75 million. Romancing the Stone. This is
the Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner.
Yeah.
One of 3, right? There was Jewel of the Nile.
Jewel of the Nile. I don't think there was a third one. I think it was just a 2.
Jewel of the Nile, Romancing the Stone, and War of the Roses.
Yeah, but that wasn't part of the same.
Not part of the series. Same two actors.
Same actors.
Same actors. Not quite the same. And co-starred and directed by Danny DeVito, who was also in Romancing the Stone. And Jewel of the Nile.
Yeah.
I guess it's a loose trilogy.
It's a loose trilogy.
I like Romancing the Stone. Romancing the Stone was a fun movie.
Yeah, it was. It's funny.
It's like the movie kind of made Kathleen Turner into like a sex symbol in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Showed us that Michael Douglas could be funny.
Yeah.
Wasn't just a really serious actor. And it's the movie that launched the movie career of Danny DeVito, who oddly enough was like a very popular leading man in the 80s.
Yeah.
In a lot of films, and it's like he's not a very conventional looking actor.
No.
Also in the 90s.
And in the 90s, yeah, like he did Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile, War of the Roses, like you said. He was in Twins. He was in
Batman.
Matilda in the 90s. He was in Batman Returns. Like, I mean, yeah, he had like a really hell of a run there. He was in Hoffa with Jack Nicholson. Even before that, like in the 70s, before he got famous on Taxi, he was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Nicholson as well. But yeah, Romancing the Stone, good one. Number 10, opened at 7 million on 1,022 screens, closed at 68 million total. Purple rain, purple rain. The Prince Vanity Project.
The what, hour and a half music video?
Pretty much, yeah. It's, if you watch it for that as like a music video, it's fun. If you watch it for like plot and you know, deep thinking, there are other movies out there you can go check out. Yeah. Did lead to a sequel though, Graffiti Bridge. Number 11. I love this movie, man. I actually watched this a few months ago because it was on Disney Plus, and I'm like, wow, I haven't seen this movie in fucking forever, and I love this movie. Opening to $6 million on 1,186 screens. Closing gross was $62 million, and plus that, Splash.
Little Mermaid.
Yeah, it's the original Little Mermaid. Kind of is when you think about it.
Yeah.
Comes on land, gets legs to find a guy that she was, you know, in love with from when she was a kid.
Doesn't have a voice right away.
Has an odd name, Madison. Tom Hanks in his all his glory as an early 80s comedic actor. And I'll tell you who steals the friggin' movie for me, man.
John Candy.
John Candy steals that fucking movie. He
not Eugene Levy.
Eugene Levy's funny in it, but you spend a lot of the film like not liking him and laughing at like his pain because he's always like getting injured. And then he kind of like him at the end because he kind of, you know, he helps him escape and all that. But John Candy, man, John Candy fucking rules in that movie. He is so funny. So funny. Playing like a womanizer, you know, screw up brother who just kind of spends the money and doesn't really do any work for the business that they own together. He's great in it. And then it also introduces us to Daryl Hannah. Showing off her ass, which when you watch on Disney Plus, they CGI'd an extra hair to cover her ass cheeks. And it's pretty noticeable that it's CGI'd hair.
Oh wow.
Covering her ass.
The mouse hides the booty.
Yeah, they had to hide the ass. Unless I don't know if they show it on the because you can do like, well, you can do an adult like on Disney Plus now, you can set it to an adult setting where you can only watch if you have a PIN number to get in. So like Katie and I on Disney Plus, I have mine and her account. Her account is the kids version. So when our nephews come over, they can watch it. My account, you have to put a PIN number in, and it allows you to watch things like Daredevil and Punisher and stuff like that.
Showgirls.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, Showgirls. So, I'm wondering if you can see Daryl Hannah's ass on my account. Might have to rewatch it. That's a great scene. She walks up on the beach, and the guy's giving a tour of the Statue of Liberty. And he's like, and it's, you know, a sign of liberty for men and naked women everywhere. Bocce balls! It's a great movie. The next one on this list, I'm thinking this is probably a documentary. It's called The Grand Canyon Hidden Secrets. I don't know much about this. It's
it has no distributor, no opening box office, no theaters, but it made $52,000.
Yeah, I think this is 34 minutes, so it's a documentary.
Yeah,
travel documentary. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know how that made so much money with all that, with like no statistics there. That's our top 10. I think for the rest of this, we can just kind of like
12.
Our top 12. Well, we could kind of just like breeze through some of these now. Like kind of just real quick talk about them. Number 13 is Amadeus.
Great movie. Great movie.
It made a lot of money considering it was only on 802 screens.
Yeah,
it was an HBO. I think it was one of the first HBO original productions. I think that was made by the HBO studios.
It's
It says Warner Brothers.
You know, it's and it's funny too. It's like Amadeus is played by Tom Hulce, and then you have F. Murray Abraham playing Antonio Salieri. And he won the Oscar for Best Actor that year, F. Murray Abraham, for playing the character that wasn't even the titular character of the film, which is kind of interesting, I thought. This was produced by, let's see. I can't find it. I'm on IMDb. I'm looking for the production company thing.
I could be wrong. I really thought it was produced by HBO Studios.
You know, you might be right. It might be like another, you know, like how they have subsidiaries and other things like that. Like it could be under a different name.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't find it. So I'll look for it later. Amadeus also, you know, gave us that great song from the 80s, Amadeus, Amadeus.
Amadeus. Amadeus, Amadeus, Amadeus.
Number 14 is Tightrope.
Yeah, never heard of that one.
It's a Clint Eastwood film. I think it might be part of the Dirty Harry series.
Oh, okay.
Because he plays you know, doesn't do it by the book cop and all that shit. So number 15 is The Natural.
Love that movie. It's one I watch every year around April when you know, opening day.
Yeah,
beginning of the season.
Classic baseball film.
Yep.
With a really weird serial killer subplot.
Yeah, awesome score though. Thomas Newman's score on that was amazing.
Yeah, it's everything about Wonder Boy, the bat, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I gotta look this up real quick because we're to the one that we got the comment on. So Jennifer at Jen TCM put down Greystoke, Chris Lambert in a loincloth. Well, that was number 16 on the year there, Jen. Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes. That is a mouthful right there. I hate the full title of that film. I just always called it Tarzan. But I remember seeing this when I was...
There was no Johnny Weissmuller.
No, there's no Johnny Weissmuller. Opened to $6 million and closed at $45 million. So it did pretty good. I saw it at home on VHS the first time. My dad had rented it. And I remember just being disturbed by the scene where the gorilla gets killed. And, you know, he's screaming, you know, he was my father or something like that. And it's like, it's that's all I kind of remember from it. It's like a movie that's like, it lives in my memory vaguely because I remember seeing it when I was very young.
I thought it was a really slow movie.
Oh, it was. It was definitely a slow movie. It
was slow.
Like 2 hours and 40 minutes. So it's like a really slow film. Next is 2010. That is
sequel.
Yes, the long-awaited sequel to 2001. 2010 was a much different film. Like 2001 was this very cerebral Stanley Kubrick, you know, esque film.
I just watched it the other day, and I think it bothered me.
The original one, 2001.
Yeah, man, all the noises and it was all noise. You know, I think the actual dialogue could have filled up, you know, 12 pages.
Yeah, it's a film that takes some work getting through.
Yeah.
Whereas 2010 is more of like a sci-fi action adventure film. Stars Roy Schneider. Number 18 is a movie close to my heart. Revenge of the Nerds, a movie that cannot be made today.
No.
But it was made in 1984, and I'm thankful that it was. It was actually a surprise hit. It's another one of those. It's another one of those ones where they did a quick turnaround on the sequel because of how well it did.
And it made the career of one Anthony
Edwards.
Anthony Edwards, because he went on to do Top Gun, and all that stuff. Yeah, I think he was the only one from that film who really kind of came out of it with any sort of substantial career, unless you count Booger making a lot of appearances in TV shows and stuff. 19 Wolverines. Red Dawn.
Oh.
Red Dawn. Boy.
Well, ensemble cast.
Yeah, who's who of young actors of the 80s. We're not talking, of course, about the Chris Hemsworth one from 2012.
We're not talking about the Brat Pack either. This is
Patrick Swayze, C. Thomas Howell, Leah Thompson, Charlie Sheen, Jennifer Grey, Harry Dean Stanton. What's his name? Wasn't it Powers Booth was the Powers Booth was the colonel guy that they rescue. Darren Dalton, not the baseball player. But yeah, like this is a who's who cast, man, of like young actors.
Yep.
I love this movie. It's so cheesy.
Oh, it is.
It's so cheesy, over the top 80s, man, like communist Red Scare shit. But it
wasn't when you first saw it as a kid.
Yeah, but it's fun, man. It's still fun to watch now.
I'm watching it now. It's like you can see how cheesy it was, though.
Yeah. Number 20 is Bachelor Party. This is the film that started Tom Hanks's movie career.
Mm-hmm.
His first major film role. I don't remember much from it. I was very young when I saw it. I think it was one of those movies where I was told to hide my eyes a few times. City Heat is another Clint Eastwood film.
Okay.
It's number 21 on the list. I don't know anything about that movie. I do know a lot about number 22, and I'm surprised it was really this far down on the list, considering the iconic status it has nowadays.
I think we got a resurgence on HBO and
yeah, Terminator came out in 1984, opening to $4 million and closing at $38 million. Given its budget, that was a pretty good profit on it.
That's why they made the second one quick.
Yeah, it was one of those films I think that benefited from home video sales and home video.
Well, wasn't the sequel in '92? So
yeah, sequel was in the '90s.
Yeah. So an 8-year.
Yeah, it took a lot of like home video popularity,
HBO
and some other like successes that James Cameron had along the way, to kind of get this made, to get the second one made. So, because I think after this, James Cameron did Aliens. And then he did The Abyss.
Yep.
And so I think after that he kind of had like what he needed to make this bombastic film that was T2, which fucking eclipsed the first movie in terms of box office sales. Number 23 is Breakin'. I have not seen Breakin', nor have I seen its popular sequel, Breakin' 2: Electric Boogaloo. So I can't say much about that.
HBO when I was a kid.
Yeah. So now we're getting to a part of the list where I really don't know much about these movies. I don't know. I don't. Yeah.
We can go through and pick out the ones that we know.
Yeah, like number 24 is All of Me. I don't really know that one.
No.
25 is Places in the Heart. I've heard the title. I've never seen the film.
Yeah.
26 is The Killing Fields. That is a film about Vietnam. It's about a photographer taking pictures of this area in Vietnam that was like a burial ground for people killed by the Viet Cong. Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. Ironic that it was called the final chapter when they did like 19 more movies after that one. Number 28 is The Gods Must Be Crazy. All I remember about that one is something about a Coke can falling out of the sky.
Okay, let me tell you about it then, because I remember this, watching it on HBO forever. It was actually a Coke bottle.
Okay.
That fell out of an airplane to an African tribe, and they thought it came from the gods.
So what you're saying is definitely a movie that can't be made nowadays.
No, it can't. I mean, they beat each other with the bottle. It was.
I do know that there was a sequel. The Gods
It was funny, yes.
Too.
It was actually funny, but I never saw it too.
Okay. Number 29 is Starman. Starman is the only film in John Carpenter's filmography to get any sort of Oscar recognition. And it was Jeff Daniels. Is it Jeff Daniels who stars in that? No, Jeff Bridges. I'm sorry. Jeff Bridges got a nomination for Best Actor for playing, the alien in the film.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good movie. Cannonball Run 2 is number 30. The movie
it's funny.
The movie that's always wasn't it Cannonball Run? I says the movie that's always getting cock blocked by Star Wars.
Yes. No. It wasn't Cannonball Run. It was Smokey and the Bandit.
Smokey and the Bandit. I'm sorry. Yeah. Number 32. Number 31 is a movie called Teachers. Kev, I don't know if you've seen this before, but you should. It's a good movie. It's about teachers.
Oh, okay.
It's
not just a clever name then.
No, it stars Nick Nolte and very, very young Ralph Macchio.
Okay.
He's a student in a public school where Nick Nolte is one of the teachers, and it kind of goes through like the daily life of these teachers and the struggles they have dealing with the kids that they have in the school, because it's like a real low, low economic
income
school. Yeah, and it's like it's interesting to see. And the funniest part of the movie, actually, there's two things I really like. There's this one teacher that they call Ditto, because all he does is hand out copies to kids every day. And they take the copies off his desk and they work on them at their desks, and he reads a newspaper at his desk all the time and does no teaching at all. He just has these kids work on worksheets every day. And then at the end of the class, they pass him back, they put him on his desk, and they leave. He ends up dying at his desk while reading the newspaper, and nobody knows he's dead. So the janitor finds him like the next day.
Oh God!
So is this the movie that would have stopped the two of you from becoming teachers if you saw it?
And actually, I was already a teacher when I saw this for the first time. But
if you watched it when you were younger,
if I had watched it before I became a teacher, I don't know how to did it. The other one that's funny is that this guy gets hired as a substitute history teacher, and he's really, really good, and the kids love him, and he's like real successful in the classroom, and he's real popular among the other faculty, and everybody gets a real kick out of this guy. And then eventually workers from the local mental facility show up to take him away because they find out he was an escaped mental patient. And he was the best teacher out of all. So that's a cool movie. Number 32 is Dune.
One of your favorite movies.
I like it for what it is. It's technically a box office bomb.
It is.
Because it was supposed to do really well and became such a mess and ended up the year number 32 on the list. Now I'm going to kind of run through these a little bit. Passage to India. Don't know what that is.
Nope.
Conan the Destroyer. If you've seen Conan the Barbarian, you're good. You don't need to see Conan the Destroyer.
Is Destroyer the one with James Earl Jones?
That's the first one.
That's the first one.
The second one, Conan the Destroyer, is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's in it.
Okay. Yeah.
Protocol. Never heard of it.
Nope.
Mickey and Maude.
Never heard of it.
This one stars Dudley Moore as a man who's married to two different women, and they both get pregnant, and they both are giving birth to their child in the same hospital on the same day at the same time.
Oh, I think I have seen.
So it's like it's one of those weird things. And the thing that's really weird about it is the one woman he's married to, her father is a professional wrestler. So there's a scene in the film where you see Dudley Moore interacting with Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, and all these like popular wrestlers from the 80s.
Oh, Jesus.
The Cotton Club. It's about the Cotton Club in Harlem.
Okay.
That's all I know about it. The Muppets Take Manhattan.
Great movie.
I actually love The Muppets Take Manhattan. It's probably the least popular of the original Muppet films, but I love Muppet Take Manhattan. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Love that movie.
Another one that's weird that it's like such an iconic horror film that it had such a low, gross in the theaters.
I think also it had another one is the video rentals and being played on HBO or Cinemax or whatever it was on. Gave it new life.
Yeah. So I am now going to just skip to the ones that I know. Woman in Red, number 40.
There's another Tom Hanks.
Yep, Tom Hanks comedy film. 16 Candles, classic John Hughes film starring Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
That's number 44. Number 45 that year was Missing in Action, which is a Chuck Norris film.
Yep.
Number 46 that year, one of my favorites as a kid, The Last Starfighter. It's a Disney film about a kid.
Universal.
It was a Universal. I thought it was Disney. It's a kid who's recruited by aliens to fight in this interstellar battle after playing a video game. Oh God, You Devil came out that year. That finished at 48. 49, Rhinestone, the country western film starring John Travolta.
I thought it was Urban Cowboy.
No, that's Matt Dillon.
Oh.
Number 50 that year. It's another classic film that has a very, very low ranking on this list, in my estimate. It's weird because like I think a lot of it is revisionist. Like we're looking back on this year and looking at these movies that we love growing up, and we expect them to be like more popular than they actually were that year. But number 50 is in German for some reason. Die Unendliche Geschichte, I think it's how you say it. Never Ending Story.
The never-ending story. Trail.
And I'm just gonna say here's some other like notable ones from that year. Top Secret, which was a Val Kilmer film.
A spoof, a comedy.
Johnny Dangerously with Michael Keaton.
That was a good one.
Firestarter with Drew Barrymore. Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. So that's weird that like the first and second movie came out the same year. Children of the Corn. Supergirl. Supergirl was a real box office bomb.
Oh, bad movie.
One of my favorite films, number 67 that year, The Ice Pirates.
Ice Pirates.
Go back and listen to our very first Movies That Time Forgot episode to hear me talk about that one. And then there's really nothing else at the end of this list. This is a top 75 list. We looked at the top 12 pretty extensively, talked a little bit about the next 10, and then I just gave you kind of a rundown of some of the more notable films on the bottom of the list. But really, there's not much else when you get towards the end there.
I know Against All Odds was on the list, and I don't know anything about the movie. I just know that there was a really good song that came out of it from Phil Collins.
Well, there you know. It's like we said, like all these 80s films had just great soundtracks. Yeah, like I don't really know any of these last few movies on the list here. So
Irreconcilable Differences I've heard of. That's Shelley Long.
Oh yeah. It's a Shelley Long film. Shelley Long, Ryan O'Neal.
Yeah.
And then I've heard of Broadway Danny Rose too. That one is a Woody Allen film. Yeah. Not one of the ones that I've seen from the Woody Allen canon. So really, the only films that are really of note here are like the top 25 probably.
And don't forget Buckaroo Banzai.
Buckaroo Banzai is not in the top 75, but it's definitely a cult classic from that year. So thank you everybody for joining us tonight for episode 64. This year in film history, the year 1984. Mike, do you have any beer wisdom for us?
I do have some beer wisdom for us. Never depend on someone else to make you happy. That's what beer's for.
That's like that Ben Franklin quote, is it? It's like one of the greatest gifts that God gave us or something like that.
Yep.
What did you think of your drinks this evening, gentlemen? I killed my my moonshine.
I would say the Cyborg brain juice is every bit of IPA an IPA can be. I didn't hate it, but it's an IPA.
Yeah.
So it's very hoppy, dry, and the Golden Leaf Golden Lager was pretty good. I liked it.
Port Tracker, can't go wrong. I know it's a spring beer, but it still works in the summer.
And as long as you just blow the dust off the lid, you're good.
It wasn't dust as much as it was rust. And I think I just left it in the cooler with the melted ice too long. But, it was not on the top. So I'm sure I'm fine.
Okay. So everybody, thank you again for joining us this evening. Make sure you tune in next episode. Episode 65, man. Episode 65 is going to be a deep dive into the look at the career of composer Danny Elfman. He has composed many very fun scores for many very strange films.
Batman.
Yeah, so I
Pee Wee
think
Herman.
Pee Wee Herman, Beetlejuice, all those films.
Beetlejuice.
So let's save it for episode 65, Kev.
Wait that long?
Yes, we're going to have to wait a whole week for that.
But just make sure that way you watch both the episodes
of Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Make sure you're caught up so we can talk
week.
about Obi-Wan next week.
You got it, gentlemen.
So join us next week for episode 65, a look at composer Danny Elfman's career. Thanks again for joining us here at the crossroads between pickled and fermented. We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. Once again, I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Make sure you send us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit us on all of our social media or podcast platforms. Visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all those links. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.